I think the most important thing is the incredible legacy that's been created by the Stephensons, to be able to honor Eric in such a concrete and meaningful way that will carry far beyond not only his reach, but will be something that these students remember throughout their lifetime, and will be such a landmark moment to be a part of something that's become so great.
This year obviously is extra special because it's the 10th anniversary, 20 high schools and over 200 pieces of art, and it's grown every single year. The very first year, I think we had 10 schools. I can't remember how much art we had, but that's when we kind of kicked it off. And then every year it's grown and more schools get on board and more schools.
It's really nice for the teachers. The teachers love it because the students come in the fall and say, is there going to be an Eric show this year? And when they say, yes, there is going to be a show, in one of the classrooms the kids said, well, we better get going. It's very competitive. And this was the first day of class, and I thought, that's really nice.
Art is kind of something overlooked a lot of the time, like kids are meant to do good in academics or try to join sports teams, and lots of the time, especially with funding, kids are just kind of like, well, if you're in art, okay, you can draw. But to have an actual show that kids can put work into it's like a big game, like a big football game, but for art kids. So it's kind of like I can finally go and show something that I'm proud of that lots of kids wouldn't be able to do otherwise.
I joined 40 North in 2009, and I had just been put in charge of a couple of small programs for the city of Champaign. I was only part-time at that time at 40 North. And Dale Stephenson had always wanted to honor his son Eric, who I never got to meet, obviously. He was killed by a drunk driver in 1970, but I got to see his art. And he never made it to college. He was accepted at U of I already, but he didn't make it to be able to attend. But the artwork he was making in high school, it blew me away. The sophistication of it, and nothing that I was ever making in high school looked anything like that. The thought process, the materials, just the level of sophistication of what he was trying to create already in high school was phenomenal. So when he was in high school, he was in a lot of competitions, mostly scholastic, I believe, that were local, and he would win these awards at this high school art show that we would have locally. And Dale could always tell how much that was impacting him when he would get validated and he'd win that award, and how much it meant to him to move forward and do more art, and then obviously decide to major in art. And so I think Dale was really wanting to, at some point, how can I honor my son? And he had tried to do it himself. He tried to reach out to some teachers and set it up himself, and he realized, I think he tried to do it one time, and it was overwhelming and it was complicated, and he just didn't have the resources in place. And so then he finally, he didn't want to give up. So then I think he talked, actually the person I think he went to initially was Carolyn Baxley at the Cinema Gallery, and said, Carolyn, how can I make this happen? And she said, go talk to 40 North. And so the timing was perfect. I was hired not long before that, and they said, Kelly, would you be willing to take this on? Would you be willing to help us coordinate and curate this show for high schools? And of course, I loved the idea and the concept, so I jumped on board immediately, started to reach out to the high schools. The first one was actually back when it was Indigo Gallery. We had the very first year was at Indigo, because it was a little smaller, and then since then, after the second year, we'd grown so much it couldn't fit. And once we found the Illini Union Gallery, we haven't looked back, because it's been a perfect space to celebrate. And so Dale and Peg would come every year and just see these students and see them get so excited about coming up to their work and seeing it matted and mounted and installed in the gallery and taking their picture with it and seeing their parents so proud. And it just, every year he got so excited. Dale would just love to see it, because I think he saw Eric in each one of those kids. Every time he saw a kid see their work, he remembered how much that meant to Eric. So it's been the perfect way for him to honor his very talented son.
For our students, Eric's show is like the premier art exhibition in Champaign County. So it's the one that they really aspire to be in, and it's definitely a badge of honor to have work selected for the Eric Show. And it, it's just a really high bar for students to be able to come and see what works are displayed, what works win prizes. So certainly there's a really strong value to the recognition that students get through the display, especially here at the Illini Union Gallery, to have the work presented so professionally and in such a beautiful space. It really elevates the work that they're doing, and then to be surrounded by this high quality from all the other schools, I think really is inspiring to them.
The students are really impressed by the other students' work, and I think that's a great way for them to be introduced to what it's like as an artist to show your work and share your work, and for other artists to see your work. So they're always really impressed by the work of the other students, and I think seeing their peers achieve at such a high level kind of inspires them to know that they can achieve at a high level, and to know that their work is worthy of that show, I think is really important.
I'll always remember the first year because, of course, I was new to 40 North, and it was the very first one, and it was very exciting, and just to see Dale experience that first one, and to see the thing I think he'd been thinking of and dreaming of and envisioning for decades, it was actually happening. So that'll always be a great memory for me, is that very first year, and just finally putting it together and seeing it happen and it being successful. And then I think over the years, I've just loved hearing stories about, teachers have come to me and said, I had this student who was really unsure about what they were doing, if they were doing the right thing, and then they'd gotten the Eric Show and they won first place or second place, and then they decided this is what they were going to do, this is what they were meant to do. And then I also love it, like I'll be installing the show and people will stop by and they'll just put their head in and be like, just want to let you know this is our favorite show of the whole year, because so it's also seeing how much not only it means to the students and the families and the teachers, but the community. They love to come out and see this amazing talent. I think somehow I think it just uplifts people to see at that young age we already have this amount of amazing talent in this area, and how they're able to express themselves. I mean, that's always because when the teachers drop it off at my office, I of course immediately just start looking through it. I can't even wait because I want to see it. And each school kind of has its own different personality, and I'm always so impressed with some of the concepts these kids are dealing with. And that's what goes back to why I love art, because they're really using art as a way to process that stuff, express that stuff, deal with that stuff, and to see them do it so amazingly, I can only imagine what they're going to be creating in 10 years. It's going to blow our minds.
I went every year because after the first time I saw awesome work that was surprisingly done by kids. I thought it was like university students when I first went, because it was at the U of I, and so what I typically expected was really high quality, like nice work, and it was really inspiring because as a little kid growing up in Urbana, you could go and see like, these are kids at schools you're probably going to be going to, and these are the type of works that they're making, and so it was just, you can definitely expect to see some really nice stuff there.
One of the things that we really strive for with the show is to represent a broad range of our student population. We want to include all sorts of media, so we have darkroom photography, digital images, mixed media, printmaking, a real range of technical to conceptual. So it really, I think, helps to create a nice, diverse show.
When I've listened to the juries come around, the magic seems to happen when you have obvious technical ability that you've developed, right? Craft. And then so some things just have all that, they're amazing. And then you have things that are just full of creativity, bursting with creativity and concept and idea. And the magic really happens is when those combine, right? You have this amazing, fascinating, interesting, creative concept where they've really challenged you and provoked you with what they're doing, but then the end piece is incredibly made. You can see the technical ability. You know they have their background and they've developed that. They've built it up from that foundation and they've learned all that stuff, and then now they combine it with creativity, and that's when the magic happens. So students really definitely, because I know when I was in high school, I focused too much on the technical. and I didn't force myself into the creative, and not until college. And so I see a lot of these students doing that, and that's because of the teachers, but I think that's when the jury really responds, is when it's this amazing technical piece, but yet it is almost profound in its creativity, and they come together and it's undeniable and it has to win.
It is a celebration of their work and their hard work. And also, like, the students that may not see themselves as artists, and if we select it, they're like, what? I have a piece in the show? Me? You know, and so that's nice too, to kind of encourage those more reluctant artists.
And we have an awards presentation the night of the reception, and it's like, it's so many people to thank, you kind of, you know, it's almost overwhelming because you realize all the different components that have to come together. I mean, you have to have these really talented students. They've had to have a family, hopefully, that has supported them and encouraged them. These teachers with minimal resources and not much time who have really inspired the students. I always love that because I can tell from that work, and talking to the teachers, you can tell how much they've inspired them and how much they've really tried to draw them out. And then you have the space, and then, you know, obviously 40 North, we've kind of gathered it all together. I mean, but we're kind of just the last part where we kind of gather it and show it off. But we couldn't do that without the Stephensons even having the idea to begin with, and all these amazing students and families and teachers that provide us with this amazing art to show off. And so it really, I mean, it's a celebration of art, but honestly, it's a celebration of our community is really what it is.
Every year it's a reminder of Eric and the influence he's had, which is nice because he actually was a quite talented artist, as you can tell by that picture over at the entrance, that painting. And, you know, it's very sad that he didn't live longer and couldn't do more, but we have some of his paintings, and a few of his friends have paintings of artwork that he did. So this show is very nice because it suggests that his influence is continuing.
I think the inspiration that it provides, I mean, it works in other levels. I've even seen teachers connect with other teachers at Eric Show. They see interesting mediums that they're having the students use, and they get inspired. So this particular assignment that might have really brought out the students in a special way, I think that teacher sees that. So it's even teachers getting inspired by other teachers, teachers getting inspired by students, students inspired by a high school that's across the other side of the city. I mean, it's just really great to see the shared ideas that happen that bring out, because it is very interesting to see. You could almost tell some of those assignments that they get, it really just brings out a whole new level of creativity, and that's that teacher coming up with that concept. Because I think, just because I've taught in the past, and there are certain assignments where you're like, nope, that didn't click. But there are certain assignments, and you can tell those are the ones that I get to see because they're the ones that are submitted where the magic happened, right? It was the right inspiration, it was the right thought, it was the right concept, it was the right medium for that student, and it all comes together, and it makes an amazing piece of art.